For about 8 decades, the world has been using the US dollar as international currency in trade, settling debts, and creating reserves. However, now, this is going to change completely. You see, having the US dollar as a reserve currency binds countries to subjugate the US and its policy. And as China has now become a de facto superpower, the financial order has literally changed. Earlier, nobody took it seriously that it was over for the US dollar, despite reports of de-dollarization. But now the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has delivered a huge blow to the US and its dollar hegemony. Don't forget, the IMF is West's lapdog, but despite this, it could not handle the pressure countries are exerting. So, what has happened? Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation Diary brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, especially China's development and growing power, you will definitely find our videos intriguing. In this video, we will explain how the IMF has shocked the world, especially the West and the US, opening doors to a new financial order with Chinese yuan being the king. Let's get started. Many experts believe the reason why the US is engaging in conflicts against China is to divert attention from a major fiasco, de-dollarization. It appears now that de-dollarization is not the only phenomenon going on. In other words, countries and their central banks are not only dumping the US dollars, rather, they are choosing an alternative as well. Earlier, the economists from the US ruled out any possibility of the US dollar being replaced. They presented the argument that since there is no currency that could take the place of the dollar, the USD will remain unrivaled. Now this has been changed and the latest blow has been delivered by the very organization established to strengthen USD hegemony. The International Monetary Fund, often referred to as the IMF, is currently deeply involved in assessing whether the Chinese yuan could become a practical currency for nations to use as a reserve and debt payment currency. This begs the question, why is the IMF accepting the Chinese yuan such a big deal? Well, as we said, the IMF was apparently established for the so-called smooth financial order for the world. Yet secretly, it had different goals. But the most important of them is to ensure the USD never loses value and stays as an international currency. For that purpose, the IMF would use various tactics, including launching economic instability in various countries thinking to replace the USD. Let us break that down. The IMF is a worldwide organization, created with the good-looking goal of helping countries work together to manage complex financial matters and maintain stable exchange rates. But don't forget, that was just to seem legitimate. IMF's beginnings trace back to the important Bretton Woods Conference of 1944, where it was established. At its heart, the IMF's main duty revolves around keeping the global money system stable. But how? Well, by boosting USD in the financial order. But let's not look at that side of the story. Countries that are part of the IMF contribute money, which is then used to offer financial assistance to those in need. However, the IMF's responsibilities go beyond just providing money. It actively keeps an eye on economies and offers advice to its member nations, fostering economic growth and financial strength. Additionally, the IMF plays a key role in promoting good economic policies, reducing poverty, and enhancing international trade and cooperation. Earlier, the IMF had offered loans to Argentina, which has been lately going into economic decline. This loan was offered in USD, and the IMF expected to get paid back in the USD. It's because that's what has been going on for decades. But this time was different. Argentina chose to use the Chinese yuan to partially pay off its outstanding debts to the IMF, about 1.1 billion US dollars out of a total debt of 2.7 billion US dollars. This information was confirmed by the IMF spokesperson, Julie Kozak, who praised Argentina's skillful handling of its financial commitments. But deep inside, Argentina's move has rattled the very core of the IMF and the US. This was never expected, especially from the very countries needing loans from the IMF. The Chinese currency, commonly known as the RMB or renminbi, is one of a few currencies that countries can use to repay their debts to the IMF. Clearly, the Chinese yuan is gradually gaining importance in the global financial landscape. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue now. Already, yuan replaced the USD and became the world's most used currency for cross-border trade. In other words, This means that yuan has already replaced USD in being an international currency for trade. It turns out that Argentina did not use yuan without reasons. Since it is a Chinese currency, China promised Argentina to offer financial support to mitigate the ongoing financial crisis in the country. However, Argentina was not asked to sue yuan for trade or to settle debts in yuan. But Argentina knows China is a beneficial ally, more worth it than the US, the West, and IMF combined. Hence, it decided to do something and shock the entire financial world. And this experiment has proven successful now. The IMF has accepted that it will accept debt payments in yuan. Considering this, it's reasonable to think that more countries might start using the yuan for international financial transactions in the future. The financial world is undergoing a big transformation, and the evolving role of the yuan is an interesting story to follow. Shifting our focus to Argentina's own currency, the peso gives us a clearer view of these unfolding developments. Besides paying in yuan, an extra $1.7 billion was sent using special drawing rights by Argentina, increasing use of yuan currency further. This event marks an important step, being the first time Argentina used the freely available yuan obtained through trade with China to settle a substantial debt owed to a significant international institution like the IMF. This strategic move highlights Argentina's adaptability in response to current circumstances. Despite the original plan being to use the yuan for imports, repurposing it demonstrates Argentina's flexibility. Sergio Massa, a prominent figure in Argentina's economic ministry, shared insights into the payment process. His disclosure that payments in June were made without involving US dollars, instead relying on SDRs and yuan, shows Argentina's resourceful financial management. But it also suggests something the US cannot fathom. Whichever country China backs up, it will use yuan. The IMF's acceptance of the yuan as a valid form of payment further emphasizes its usefulness as a medium of exchange in international financial transactions. Argentina has faced notable challenges lately, largely stemming from a significant drought that resulted in losses exceeding $20 billion. This economic hardship led to a substantial decline of the Argentine peso, around 44%, against the US dollar in the past year. Moreover, inflation has surged significantly, reaching levels of almost 70%. Yet this story goes beyond just economic aspects, connecting with the political domain. Notably, the ongoing negotiations with the IMF intersect with Argentina's ongoing election campaign. Sergio Massa plays a dual role as both the Minister of Economy and a presidential candidate. In this context, China emerges as a dependable ally for Argentina amidst its economic difficulties. The renewal of a bilateral currency swap agreement, valued at an impressive 130 billion yuan, underscores China's commitment to Argentina's well-being. Converted to Argentine pesos, this amounts to a substantial 4.5 trillion pesos, or about $18.2 billion in US dollars. For transactions, Argentina is opting to use the Chinese yuan. At this moment, negotiations are in progress for a fresh agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The reason behind these talks is that Argentina hasn't been able to meet the set targets within the existing program. There are also rumors that Argentina might once again tap into its currency swap with China to settle the $2.65 billion US dollars payment due this month. It's a pretty unique financial strategy to say the least. But how is this a good strategy? Well, you see, when Argentina pays in yuan, it does not have to have USD in its central banks. It earns yuans by exporting goods to China. Hence, instead of first converting those yuans, it has chosen to use all the earned yuans for debt payments. That way, Argentina can not only get rid of the USD but also help China implement yuan as the new international currency. This will also be an example for other countries to adopt yuan and find China as a reliable ally. It's worth noting that Brazil is showing keen interest in joining this trend. Brazil has teamed up with China, entering into an agreement that empowers them to engage in trade and investments using their own currencies, rather than solely relying on the US dollar. This means that Brazil will be doing exactly the same. It will accept yuan for the goods it sells to China. And not only will it use yuan for debt payment, but also for further trade. Simply, this will create a chain reaction where every country will have yuan in their reserves. Hence, the argument that countries won't accept yuan and won't ditch dollars is no longer there. With the IMF's announcement that it will accept yuan for debt payment, it's a matter of a few months to see how all countries start using yuan. We would like to take a moment to appreciate you all for commenting and sharing your opinion.